Think your phone is stealing all your time? I mean, people were complaining they had no time back in 1910.
Yeah, it's the anxiety of the ticking clock is definitely not a 21st century invention.
Right. So I want you to paint a mental image of London, early 1900s. Just really picture it.
Okay, I'm with you.
You've got these commuters in bowler hats, heavy wool coats, standing under those massive, imposing factory and railway clocks.
Right, checking their pocket watches, looking stressed.
Exactly. They're clutching their broadsheet newspapers, hurrying through the smog, and just feeling completely starved for time.
A very cinematic image.
Now, flash forward to today. Picture a modern commuter. They're bathed in the blue glow of a smartphone, right?
Yeah, swiping through endless feeds.
Swiping, reacting to just a constant barrage of push notifications, and feeling, well, completely overwhelmed, starved for time.
It's the exact same feeling, just a different century.
It really is.
Yeah.
We tend to assume the attention economy just sort of broke our schedules recently, but in this deep dive, we're looking at a text that shows this structural problem was deeply entrenched long before Silicon Valley even existed.
Oh, absolutely. Long before.
We are rediscovering Arnold Bennett's largely forgotten essay, How to Live on 24 Hours a Day.
It's such a brilliant piece of writing.
It is, because before the internet, before streaming or social media, Bennett identified our exact modern crisis.
He really did.
And his central message for you is basically this. You don't need more time. You need to stop throwing your life away after work.
Which is a pretty tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. But it's so relevant for this kind of knowledge reloaded discovery, right? Finding this old idea that just completely maps onto modern life.
Well, Bennett cuts right through the technological noise of any era. He recognized that human nature, specifically our tendency to just squander our most precious resource, it remains incredibly consistent.
We just invent shinier ways to waste time.
Exactly, more frictionless ways to do it. I mean, the technological landscape of a London clerk in 1910 is obviously entirely different from a remote tech worker today.
Right, obviously.
But the psychological trap of the working day, like how it completely consumes our identity, that is identical.
It's eerie. Reading in a text from over a century ago that predicts my own evening burnout. It feels a little unsettling.
I bet.
But before we can get into fixing our modern schedules, Bennett insists we have to understand the raw material we're actually working with. We have to fundamentally reevaluate time itself.
Right. He calls it the daily miracle.
The daily miracle. I love that.
He approaches it with this profound sense of awe that we really rarely pause to consider. Bennett points out that time is the ultimate unstealable democracy.
The great equalizer.
Exactly. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy. The greatest genius in the world and the absolute biggest fool both receive the exact same daily allocation.
24 hours.
24 hours. You cannot buy an extra minute, no matter how much wealth you accumulate. You cannot draw on tomorrow's supply, so you can't go into debt with time.
Which is pretty forgiving, actually.
It is, and perhaps most forgivingly. If you completely waste today, the universe does not punish you by cutting off tomorrow's supply.
Right. Tomorrow is kept for you pristine and untouched.
Just waiting to be spent.
He describes waking up every morning to find your purse magically filled with 24 hours of the, I think he calls it the unmanufactured tissue of the universe.
Yeah, unmanufactured tissue. It's a beautiful way to frame it.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
But, he also pairs that beauty with a rather dark observation about this persistent anxiety. He calls it the skeleton at the feast.
The skeleton at the feast. Yeah, that's that vague, uneasy feeling that haunts a person even when they're doing everything ostensibly right.
Like checking all the adulting boxes.
Exactly. You're paying your mortgage, you're raising your kids, you're meeting your professional deadlines. You are fulfilling all your responsibilities. Yet, there is this persistent ghost sitting with you at dinner, basically whispering, "Is this it? When does my real life start?"
Oh, wow. That hits hard.
It's the sensation of constantly waiting for a curtain to rise on a life you feel you're supposed to be living, but you just somehow never manage to begin.
I do need to challenge this foundational idea a bit, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Claiming time is a perfect democracy and that we all have 24 hours, I mean, it feels a little dismissive of material reality, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, a billionaire's 24 hours looks completely different from a middle-class commuter's 24 hours.
Okay, yes.
The commuter is spending 2 hours on a train, cleaning their own kitchen, doing laundry. The billionaire has a whole staff to handle the friction of daily living. They aren't truly equally wealthy in time, are they?
That is a very critical distinction to make. But Bennett is not talking about financial freedom here, nor is he dismissing the reality of domestic labor.
Okay.
He is talking specifically about the cultivation of the mental life.
The mental life.
Right. For the purposes of living a fulfilling intellectual and spiritual life, Bennett argues that the clerk making £1 a week has the exact same capacity to engage their mind as the millionaire in his mansion.
Okay, I see.
The barrier to reading philosophy or understanding architecture or just reflecting on your place in the universe, it isn't the laundry.
What is it then?
The barrier is the psychological illusion of time poverty.
Ah,
He uses this analogy of a man in London who desperately desires to go to Mecca.
right.
The man dreams of the journey, he talks about it endlessly, he feels guilty for not going, but he never even walks out of his local neighborhood of Brixton to just inquire about the price of a passenger ticket.
So he just defeats himself before he even starts.
Exactly. We are paralyzed by the belief that we don't have enough time, so we never even take the first cognitive step.
We never leave Bristol. We just sit there complaining about the distance. So if we all have this daily purse of 24 hours and the actual capacity to use it, the question really becomes why we feel so constantly depleted.
Right. And Bennett traces this back to a massive psychological error in how we view the structure of our day.
And it's centered almost entirely around how we view our jobs, right?
Yeah, Bennett zeroes in on the typical office worker. In his era, it was the 10 to 6 worker with a 50-minute commute.
Sounds pretty familiar.
His observation is incredibly sharp, and it applies just as much today. He says the vast majority of people do not have a burning, consuming passion for their jobs.
Most people definitely don't.
At best, they tolerate it.
Yeah.
They are essentially just surviving the workday. They start as late as their employer allows, and they leave with absolute joy the second the clock strikes.
And here's the fatal mistake. We treat those 8 hours of work as, quote unquote, the day.
Yes, we frame our entire existence around that one block of time.
We view the hours before work merely as this frantic preparation for the main event, and the hours after work as just the exhausted recovery from it.
Exactly. We treat the remaining 16 hours, which is, by the way, the vast majority of our time on Earth, as almost worthless margin.
When you lay it out mathematically like that, it is an absurd way to structure human existence.
It really is. You're making 2/3 of your life entirely subservient to 1/3.
And a third that you don't even particularly enjoy.
Exactly. And when you view your time outside of work merely as margin or recovery, you don't value it. You don't protect it.
Which leads Bennett to observe that phenomenon he calls the tired feeling.
Oh, the tired feeling, yes.
He described how we actually work up this feeling of exhaustion on the commute home. Like we let this virtuous melancholy cloud settle over us.
We convince ourselves we've given our all to the machinery of commerce.
Right. So we get home, we potter around, we pick up a book, put it down, stare at the wall, and eventually around 11:15 p.m. we mutter to ourselves, time to think about going to bed.
Time to think about going to bed. That precise, mundane phrasing just captures the total lack of vitality in the modern evening.
It's so depressing, but so accurate.
A person who takes 40 minutes to simply contemplate the act of going to sleep isn't living. They are just existing in a state of suspended animation.
Okay, I have to pause you there because I feel like the nature of work has changed drastically since 1910.
Sure.
The clerk back then was physically copying ledgers, which, yeah, is tedious, but it isn't cognitively shattering. Today, we are dealing with severe cognitive overload.
That's true.
We're navigating constant context switching, managing Slack channels, staring at screens, emitting blue light, just processing endless streams of data. Modern work exhaustion is a physiological reality.
I won't deny that.
So when someone collapses on the couch for a 3-hour doom scroll, their brain is genuinely fried. Are we just supposed to pretend we aren't tired?
The cognitive load of modern work is undeniably heavier, I'll give you that. But Bennett provides a behavioral proof that our evening exhaustion is still largely psychological.
Okay, let's hear it.
He poses a scenario. Imagine you come home feeling that exact heavy, bone-deep exhaustion from your data-heavy modern job.
I'm there.
But on this particular evening, you have a theater date with someone you are incredibly attracted to.
Ooh, okay.
Or perhaps you're suddenly called upon to step into a lead role for an amateur operatic society that night.
Right. Some high-stakes, exciting event.
Exactly. What happens? After that exact same exhausting workday, you rush home, you change clothes, you rush back out, and you suddenly possess boundless energy for 4 straight hours.
Oh, yeah.
You're alert, you're engaged, you're vibrant. You certainly don't spend 40 minutes staring at the wall thinking about going to bed.
That completely dismantles the argument, doesn't it?
Hmm.
When there's a concert or a great dinner plan, the fatigue just miraculously vanishes.
The underlying mechanism here is rooted in how the brain actually functions. The mental faculties do not tire in the same way a physical muscle tires.
Right, if you run a marathon, you have to rest your legs.
Exactly. Your leg muscles require physical immobility to repair tissue. The brain, however, does not require a cessation of activity to recover, except during actual sleep.
Wait, really?
Yes. What the conscious brain requires is a jarring shift in context. It requires change.
Change, not rest.
Engaging a completely different part of your intellect is as refreshing to the mind as lying down on a mattress is to the physical body.
So we aren't actually too exhausted to live our lives. We are just profoundly understimulated by our own evening routines.
Precisely. We lack a compelling reason to engage our brains, so we just default to inertia.
And this brings us to the core of Bennett's solution, which relies on a very specific visual metaphor. He calls it the Chinese box.
Yeah, think of a literal Chinese puzzle box. You have a solid wooden box, and when you slide a hidden panel, you discover another perfectly formed, entirely independent box nested seamlessly inside it.
Right.
Bennett argues you have to mentally construct a hidden 16-hour day nested right inside your 24-hour day. You have to draw a hard psychological boundary.
So from 6:00 p.m. to 10 a.m. the next morning, you are not a wage earner.
No. You are a free person with a private income of time, and you must guard the borders of that inner 16-hour day as fiercely as you would guard your financial assets.
He outlines how to physically and mentally inhabit that inner box, starting with the morning commute. And I found this fascinating. Bennett possessed an absolute hatred for how people squandered their train rides.
Oh, he despised it.
Yeah.
In 1910, people would board the train and immediately bury their faces in the daily newspaper, completely checking out for 40 minutes.
He called this scattering priceless pearls of time.
He argued that we were voluntarily robbing ourselves of rare, uninterrupted solitude. He pointed out that newspapers were produced with rapidity to be consumed with rapidity.
So they didn't require any actual deep thought.
None at all, merely a passive scanning of headlines. So instead of that passive absorption, he prescribed using the commute to actively concentrate the mind.
And he meant this literally. You select a single subject, perhaps a chapter from Epictetus or a complex historical event, and you force your brain to trace its contours.
And your mind will inevitably wander. But Bennett says you must wrestle it back to the subject 40 times if necessary, simply to train your brain to obey your conscious will.
Translating that to the modern commute is incredibly revealing.
Yeah.
I mean, Bennett is basically outlining the mechanics of the modern attention economy before it even existed.
He really is.
Instead of broadsheet newspapers, we're letting algorithmic feeds and push notifications just pillage our morning solitude.
Yeah, we get on the train or we sit at our kitchen island with a coffee, and we instantly hand over our cognitive control to an app that is literally designed to fracture our attention.
So how does a modern person actually implement Bennett's advice when the newspaper has been replaced by a supercomputer in our pocket?
The mechanism of distraction is more sophisticated now, sure, but the antidote remains exactly the same: intentional friction.
Intentional friction.
If you don't dictate a specific task to your brain, a team of engineers in Silicon Valley will gladly dictate one for you. Practically speaking, this might mean leaving the smartphone zipped in your bag during the commute and holding a physical book, or even just a notepad.
It's a physical act of removing the easy escape hatch of the screen.
Exactly. Forcing yourself to sit with a single train of thought. It is difficult, uncomfortable work initially, but it reclaims the sovereignty of your morning.
Okay, so let's assume we reclaim the morning. We wrestle our thoughts on the train. We still have to address the elephant in the room, the evening slump.
The big one.
That massive block of time from 6:00 p.m. to midnight. Now, Bennett doesn't ask us to work a second job or stay up all night. His core proposal is surprisingly constrained.
Very constrained. He asks for just 90 minutes, 3 evenings a week, dedicated to serious consecutive cultivation of the mind.
Just 90 minutes 3 times a week. That leaves ample time for socializing, running errands, or just relaxing.
But during those 90 minutes, you are entirely engaged, and he is very specific about the nature of this engagement.
Right, he suggests studying something outside the realm of fiction.
Yeah, fiction is wonderful, but a well-written novel is designed to carry you along without mental strain. You just float on the narrative current.
And Bennett insists that you need a degree of strain.
He does.
I struggle with the word strain, to be honest. If I watch a 4-hour, incredibly dense documentary about the Roman Empire, that is a change from my daily spreadsheet work.
Sure.
Why doesn't that count? Why
Yeah.
does Bennett insist it has to feel difficult?
Because a documentary, no matter how educational it is still passive absorption. You are letting someone else's mental architecture wash over you.
Ah,
Bennett is advocating for active construction. You need to develop the perception of cause and effect. He suggests studying history or analyzing poetry or understanding the structural architecture of a symphony.
so he doesn't want you to just listen to the music.
No, he wants you to learn how the orchestra functions, how the instruments interact, why the composer made those specific choices. He wants you to learn why a street in Paris is straight and a street in London curves.
Okay.
The strain comes from actively connecting disparate pieces of information. When you engage in that level of active learning, the world around you becomes intensely interesting.
But to achieve this, you have to treat this 90-minute appointment with yourself as sacred, right? As immutable as if it were a championship tennis match or a critical business meeting.
Absolutely sacred.
But here's the thing. We hear a concept like this. We get a massive rush of motivation. We buy 5 heavy books on architectural history. We schedule every minute of our week.
And by Thursday, we have abandoned the entire project and we're back on the couch.
Exactly. The road to self-improvement is paved with abandoned evening routines. So how does Bennett suggest we navigate the execution of this plan without falling into those usual traps?
Well, Bennett was deeply pragmatic about human psychology. He recognized that the greatest immediate danger to this program was our own initial enthusiasm.
Our enthusiasm is the danger.
He termed it ardor in well-doing. When you first realize the vast potential of your reclaimed time, the impulse is to try and move mountains.
You attempt to study 3 languages simultaneously, read the complete works of Shakespeare, and master calculus all in 1 week.
Exactly. And Bennett warns that this overreach is a fatal trap. Attempting too much and failing destroys your self-respect, and a glorious failure is vastly more damaging than a petty success.
Because a petty success builds momentum. If you set a microscopic goal and hit it, you trust yourself a little more the next day.
That is the exact psychological mechanism. You have to allow for the frailties of human nature. Allow for delayed trains and bad days.
Right.
He actually advises giving yourself a full 2.5 hours of block time just to ensure you manage to accomplish the 90 minutes of actual focus.
That's really smart. He also issues a brilliant warning about how you conduct yourself once you actually manage to string a few successful weeks together. He warns the reader against becoming a prig.
Oh, Bennett's definition of a prig is wonderful. He describes them as a pompous fool who has lost an important part of his attire, namely his sense of humor.
That's hilarious.
When you begin reclaiming your time, reading deep philosophy, and cultivating your mind, there is a very strong temptation to look down on your friends or colleagues who are still spending their evenings watching television or scrolling on their phones.
Right, you feel enlightened.
And Bennett's advice is blunt. Do not do that. Do not chatter about your new enlightened schedule.
The world rolled on perfectly well before you became the Chancellor of the Exchequer of Time, and it will continue to roll on without your moral judgments.
Keep it to yourself and do the work.
There is one final trap he mentions, which feels incredibly relevant to our modern culture of optimization. He warns against becoming a slave to your own program, what he calls developing a policy of rush.
Yeah, if you find yourself taking your dog for a walk at 8 p.m., and for the entire duration of the walk you're agonizing over the fact that you absolutely must be at your desk by 8:45 p.m. to read your history book, you've entirely missed the premise.
You haven't liberated yourself at all. You've merely built yourself a second intellectual prison.
Exactly. The schedule must possess elasticity. The routine exists to serve your mental well-being. You do not exist to serve the routine.
The contrast between Bennett's advice and modern hustle culture is just striking. Hustle culture constantly pressures us to monetize our margins,
Oh, constantly.
We're told to turn our hobbies into side businesses, to build personal brands in the evenings, to squeeze every conceivable drop of financial productivity out of our waking hours.
And Bennett is advocating for the exact opposite.
He's telling you to study butterflies under a gas lamp, or dissect the structure of a symphony, or read difficult poetry simply for the sake of being alive.
Yes.
It feels like we spend our days aggressively polishing the leaves of our professional lives, while the root system, our actual innate human curiosity, is just completely drying out beneath the soil.
That metaphor captures the essence of his argument perfectly. We place immense value on our external output at work, yet we fundamentally devalue our internal cognitive growth.
And Bennett is imploring us to reverse that valuation.
The human mind is a miraculous, delicate machine that actively craves understanding and curiosity. When you feed that curiosity, when you begin to grasp cause and effect in history or art, you stop being constantly shocked and pained by the events of the world.
You become large-minded and large-hearted.
You cease being a stranger in your own life.
It's amazing when you realize that Bennett saw the entirety of this dynamic over a century ago. He observed the distraction, the creeping burnout, the evenings surrendered to a passive mental coma.
The modern world has not created a new fundamental problem regarding time. It has simply engineered far more efficient algorithmic ways for us to throw our evenings away.
The endless scrolling and the auto-playing streaming cues are just the technologically advanced successors to staring blankly at the parlor wall.
But the raw material of your existence remains those identical 24 hours. No technology, no employer, and no algorithm can steal them from you unless you voluntarily hand them over.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Arnold Bennett's framework, I want to leave you with this thought. We expend vast amounts of energy trying to optimize our workdays, endlessly tweaking our routines to be more efficient employees. But maybe the problem isn't that we don't have enough time. Maybe we've forgotten that the hours outside work are still our life.
It's the inner box. It is where your real life is waiting to be lived.
You possess a private income of time, waiting to be claimed every single evening. So what would you do differently if you treated your evenings as part of your life instead of leftover?